Hello everyone, a very good evening to all, and I am Ankur Jashpuria, and I welcome you all to the session 3 of Isola 101 Gupshup series. For a better presentation, kindly put your microphones on mute mode and your camera on off mode. And this presentation screen will be shared by the host and the speaker. So kindly please avoid presenting anything in between. We are honored to have with us today architect Himanshu Taneja. He is a landscape architect by profession. Hi Himanshu, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Himanshu has done his architecture from Manit Bhopal and he has done his post graduation in landscape architecture from CEPT University. Currently, is the proprietor for a landscape architecture consultancy firm, Studio HA, which is based out of Jaipur. To speak about some of the achievements and accolades his office has won, they are they are the regional winners for the IDEC Intelligence Series in 2019, and they have been also awarded the runner-up trophy at the national level for the IDEC Intelligence Series in 2020. Himanshu, I would like you to elaborate something about your practice.
Yeah, thank you, Ankur, for the humble introduction. So we started our practice in year 2012, and we are doing more of landscape architectural projects of varied scales, ranging from residences to campuses to urban scales, and we try to do our works passionately, whether it's the design, whether it's the professional practice, or it's the studio environment. And I'm only the face representing my studio, and would like to acknowledge my partner, architect Aditi Taneja, who is principal architect of Studio HA, and all my helping hands, architect Prachi, architect Shubham, architect Jagisha, and Rigel, and many other ex-employees who have worked on the projects which I will be presenting. Over to you, Ankur.
Thanks for that, Himanshu. Now we'll start off with the presentation. Just before that, I would request you all to kindly post your questions at the end of the session in the chat box section, and then we'll take over from that. Now I request Himanshu to please start your presentation and share your screen. All the best.
Thank you, Ankur. Uh, Good evening, everyone, again, and I'm honored to be here presenting on this online forum of one-on-one Gupshup. I'm sharing my screen. Ankur, am I audible?
Yes,
Is my presentation visible and
yes,
well?
please.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I would be today talking to you through my talking sites. So whenever a project is introduced to an architect or a landscape architect, he or she surges in inquisitiveness to visit the site. Every design professional has senses her own site in its own different ways. So uh, I sense my sites whenever site talks to me. So whenever we go to the site talks to us about her visual ambitions, about her existing features, topographical settings. She talks to us about her context, history, culture. The site tells her assorted stories, her diversified likes and dislikes. So there are many narratives which breathe on a site. So it's the duty, it's the responsibility of landscape architect to manage them, to modulate them, to to uplift or settle down few narratives. So site urges us to heal her pimples, heal her flaws. She urges us to uplift her dimples, uplift her strength. So, in order to connect with your sites, we need to talk to her. We need to then talk to Thaisel so that we start talking to her paper. So I would be sharing my experiences through few of my projects. I would like to demonstrate the way we talk to our sites, the way site talk to us, the way we came up with our design proposals without taking any pre-notion thought in our mind. I would be presenting botanical garden, which is first in my projects, and Botanical Garden is situated on Bambala Pulia, Tonk Road, Jaipur. Botanical Garden um, is a 7.9 acre site, and is a part of bigger project called Rejuvenation of Amanisha Nala. So in this project, there were three parks which were reclaimed: the bird park, the landscape park, and the botanical garden. So we did the botanical garden. So we were given this project with a preconceived notion by the client to make it a botanical garden, make it in terms of displaying the botanical stuff. So and it was also planned to become a city level open space uh, to boost up eco tourism in Jaipur. So to go ahead further, we visited the site, and we saw the site when we saw the site with many topographical settings, and then the site talked to us about her water edge, about her ecological connect which it required with the ecological sensible fringe of Jaipur. It urged us to start thinking of her morphological history, her visual ambitions. So then we go ahead analyzing it. While analyzing, we found that the botanical gardens share a common edge between River Dravavati and the botanical garden. So the northern edge becomes a higher visual potential zone, and we can also see that there were nice views from the Bambala Pulia of the site, and the site was 3 meter below the embankment level of River Dravavati. So that was the biggest challenge which we faced while designing the site. Its drainage was the biggest challenge. Its own drainage, rainwater drainage, was the biggest challenge. So while uh, designing the uh, drainage of that site, we observed that there were many dead tributaries, there were existing depressions, there were scars of all these tributaries and depressions. So we thought of generating a small narrative. We thought of making a set of similar water bodies connected with bioswales to rejuvenate uh, this this existing element retrospectively. So, so this was the drainage, the slope of the site, which was towards the northern direction, and and so this was again a second reason of making the set of the water bodies in the northern direction connected with the biosphere. So there were like 3 4 reasons which urged us to make the set of these water bodies with connected with biospheres. First was to drain its own rainwater. Second was to generate that narrative. The third was to uh, to have the use of the northern potential edge. And then in terms of master planning, in terms of the process, we then generated this primary loop which run along, which is running along the water bodies in order to establish all the other habitats which were required to make a botanical garden. We identified many such habitats to make it a botanical garden. So we generated a character, we generated a character map to see which area fits in with which habitat. We generated many geometries to detail this the connection of these botanical habitats. I will not go into detail of these habitats, but you can see these characters which we define. You can see butterfly gardens, Ayurveda garden, Navgraha garden, the xerophyte garden, wetlands, and many other marshes. So this is how the site planning was done, and we came up with this solution. So it was the amalgamation of these botanical habitats with various geometries, with the city level open space infrastructure and the facilities. We generated many viewing decks. We generated a food court. We generated nursery, ticket counter, the facility blocks, and so this is how we made the amalgamation of the city level open space along with the uh, the habitats, turning it into a um, micro level ecological zone. So we designed these water bodies, we designed their shapes and volumes in order to catch 90 to 95% of its rainwater. So there was a small brief calculation which we have shown here, through which we made these water bodies in a way, we located them in a way so that it catches all the rainwater. So its shapes and volumes could catch all the rainwater, and the water remains till the summer month. So all these water bodies were located, their shapes, their geometries were defined in a way that they interact with all the other typologies uh, in the site, how it interacts with the uh, food court, how it is creating a small ecosystem, how a water body sits in a leisure garden. You can see the relation of this food court with the water body, with the river edge, a promenade to see the views of river, and a circular edge here to see the panoramas of the site and the wetland habitat. You can see the views of the viewing deck sitting on water body from the food court. Uh, Another image of the viewing deck, how it is sitting on the wetland. And so there were two other water bodies called as Twin Swamp. They were actually the swelled up bioswale. It had two viewing decks to enjoy the views of again the Dravyavati and the Ayurveda and butterfly garden. You can see a micro ecosystem starting to develop on our site. Views from the viewing deck, the setting of the viewing deck along with this twin swamp. There was a third, last water body which was designed in a way called as Sunrise Lake. It was designed in a way to handle all the overflow of the water system, designed in a way to 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 again overflow its water to a swamp area which was the habitat of grasses and bamboos. And we can also so it was located at the eastern direction. We can also have good photographs of the rising sun and some good selfies with the morning sun. You can see the connection between all these habitats, the wetland, a small bridge, resting shelters. So there were many species of plants. There were many species, varied species, and many plants were installed on the site, which was selected in a way to create a small ecosystem and to make a make a make a ecological connect with the Dravyavati project and an ecological connect with the Aravali fringe of Jaipur. So I'm sharing one small video of 40 seconds to show how this site came up with all other features which I'm not able to show in my presentation. Sorry for the interruption. Ankur, is it visible?
You're showing the video?
Yeah, I'm sharing the video, but is the screen visible?
Yeah, the screen is visible, but you have to start the video
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Thank you. So this was how we developed the botanical garden. So next project which I would be sharing is Subhash Udyan Ajmer, located in the core city of Ajmer near Nasagar Lake. And Subhash Udyan uh, was in a distressful, destructive state when we were appointed for the project. It was the hub of many informal activities. The place was unsecure. It was not acting as a park, as an open space for the uh, city. It was not working as a play area for children living in the nearby neighborhood. So when we went to the site, we saw that the site was demanding us to value her heritage, was demanding her to value her cultural background, her history. So seeing her distressed state, it urged us to revive her. So with those talks, we went ahead and we analyze the site. So here I would like to acknowledge Drona Gurgaon. So we got a research document and a research from them which helped us to know the history of Subhash Udyan, that the embankment which was established in by the Chauhana dynasty, which was then articulated by the Mughal dynasty, and then it was then again ruled by the colonial in the British period, and how it came under the municipal uh, corporation, and how it is in this state. So originally it was the leisure garden of Mughals, and there were water pavilions which were developed by them. So all these were in this axis, and you can see my cursor there. And the overflow of the Anasagar Lake used to flow through the channel, flowing into this water channel till this point. And there was no geometry, there was no essence of a heritage value to the beside the landscape language which must have been there during that period. So we analyzed that it had the loss of historical character. It didn't had sufficient children play areas. The area was not maintained, and the entrances were not designed. So there was many large areas, many inaccessible spaces, many unutilized land. The area was around 13 acres, but very small was functioning. Very small was used for general public. Rest was under insecure antisocial hands. The park was very irregular and unorganized. So it was not designed for. It was not working as well. Not for everyone, and it was not working for every time. So we then designed it in a way that it worked. We designed it in a way that work as a city level open space for the city of Ajmer. It can work for all the age groups and all the user groups. It can incorporate all the primary functions, leisure activities, and it can work for all these seasons. So in the process, we identified a primary axis which connects with the Baradari water pavilion with the entrance gate along this water channel, in which we designed many series of fountains and a water stream, and a cross axis respecting the temple and incorporating the three bags in a way to make a char bag concept over here. We defined the axis here, and then we defined the primary loop in which we incorporated separate walking, jogging, and bicycle track uh, uh, with different specifications. Then we defined many crossways and nodes to respect that language and have other interconnections. Um, then this is how we came up with the master plan, having all these activities, incorporating its heritage values, its cultural values, and all the city level open space concepts into it, all the city level open space infrastructures into it, a children play area, open gym area, the charbags, the axes, the crossways, the plaza to the Baradari, the entrance plaza, a biography display of Subhashji, the boating pond with the food court and a yoga zone. So we articulated the site in a way that that language continues, that heritage value continues over into the site. You can see the Charbagh language, the basin forms and basin geometries into it, the biography display of Subhashji, how the yoga dedicated yoga zone is abutting the boating pond, and the space for food court is abutting the boating pond, the night views of Subhash Udyan, some other angles, the biography display, food court, and boating pond. You can see the crossways and the charbagh and the temple and the axis with the end plazas, a 30 feet high fountain, the three tracks which run around. The third project which I would be presenting is the Ramakrishna Mission Swami Vivekanand Smriti Mandir, situated in Khetri. We I would like to acknowledge architect Pushpak Pandit. He was a great help and was a great guide when we started this project, and we were introduced to the client with his help. So I think as you, I don't know whether I think most of you would be knowing that the Khetri is a center of copper mines and has a wonderful topography. There is a small story which is associated with this project. Um, Maharaja Ajit Singh Palace uh, we would be talking about the palace which Maharaja Ajit Singh donated to Ramakrishna Mission when he got inspired with Swami Vivekanand, and that palace from that point was under Ramakrishna Mission Trust, and uh, they were handling it. And in last like 5-6 years, the conservation of that palace came into existence along with the rejuvenation of these many landscape courts, which I would be talking about. So when we went to the site had a strong architectural language of that palace. It had a wonderful topographical setting. The site was sitting on a small hill on a rocky terrain. The site urged us to design something simple to respect its simplicity. It urged us to respect her culture. So during our visit, we observed that in the entrance court, there was a raised ground on the other side, and there was this palace on the other side. and there was an old fountain in the axis in the center of that palace. So, this is how, after analyzing that, this is how we came up with the design solution, with redefining that axis and making an open air theater over that raised ground, and imagining the stage towards that towards the direction of that palace, and respecting this old fountain with by making a contemporary mandala flooring, um, made by the use of Rajasthan stones and the locally available Khandela marble. So this is how the fountain, the raised ground, and the existing site was enhanced, and how it got transformed. You can see in this photograph also the fountain, how it is sitting with Vivekanand Murthy, and the gateway to the another court. On the So there was another court which was expected to be designed into a refreshment block, having bookstall and a refreshment area, and the site had a existing foothill, or existing rocky outcrop, which which the site demanded to, which we thought of retaining, and we instead of removing that, we thought of making a fountain, making a cascade over it, making it a natural stream associated with all these grasses, so that it could enhance that refreshment court, enhance that food shop, the bookstall area. You can see how these grasses and the streams are associated, how it has started overcoming that rocky area along with these ground covers, the views of the stream from the veranda of the food court. The site demanded us some simplicity. It demanded us to create a serene, calm environment, and this is how we made these benches, these sitting areas, the simplicity in flooring, and this is how we came up with the solution for catering. The third project which I would be talking about is the Median Park in Nathdwara, which we are doing along with architect Nishchal Jain and architect Kavita Jain. So it is around a 2 kilometer stretch of a median, a 60 feet wide median, which is connected with this highway, Jaipur Udaipur highway. And you can see a black dot there. It is so it is in vicinity of the famous Srinathji temple. So there were, so this site already had the stories and narratives and vibes of Lord Krishna, Lord Srinathji. So the site went along with those narratives. So when we went there, the site like demanded to respect her festive aura, demanded to respect her culture. The site already had a variable topographical terrain, and it demanded us to respect that the Indian mythology, which we we always respect in our designs and practices. So we generated a small narrative to respect those talks and to respect the site. So we illustrated, we tried to symbolize, we tried to illustrate the 8 darshans which happen in a day during different period of that day, and in 8 different zones, and we tried to create the experience of Braj environment, which was there in during the Krishna period, or the Krishna, which is always we see during in the Krishna stories. So I would be demonstrating three of these zones which we illustrated, which we thought in our design while designing the median park. First is Shringar Darshan. So you can see in this photograph how delightfully the Krishna is being dressed, and how you can see the how Krishna is dressed with garlands and many ornaments, and you can see so this darshan is assumed to be a playtime for Srinathji, and we interpreted all these in a way that we will try to incorporate the rows of flowers to represent the garlands. We will try to represent the play plazas. So we came up with this design. You can see how we created these curves of the flowers which are representing these the garlands, and the way we created these plazas having swings and creating the play areas, and also acting as a waiting area along this walk. You can see a few illustrations, the plaza with swings and acting as bench for the walk along this medium, and the garlands, curves, and the hedges, the rows of the flowers representing garland. The second darshan is Rajbhog darshan. In Rajbhog darshan, the Krishna is served with chappan bhog. It is served with lavish lunch, having varied colors and textures. So it is offered and is and this scene is always full of many devotees and friends. So in order to create that scene, we thought of creating a large plaza, a large space uh, which could occupy many devotees, and is demonstrating the Rajbhog again with flowers, with bowls of flowers. So we created the bowls of flowers having many colors and many textures into it, and a large plaza having a large seating area. We also located Srinathji's Murti at the highest point of this median in order to respect the topography. You can see the site is sloping that side, and sorry, and the site is sloping that side. So this was the highest point where Krishna was located, and this plaza was created along with that seating and the Rajbhog bowls and the flowers. Uh, these are the few. This is the illustration which you can see, the plaza with seating and the bowls. That side, this side. The third darshan which I would be presenting, demonstrating, is Uthapan darshan. The Uthapan darshan is the scene which in which the Krishna returns after a walk with his cattle through the jungle, along river Yamuna, along with many streams, along with paddy fields, the uh, along with the jungle and the paddy fields. So we try to create the similar scene into this zone, and this is how we created the meander of river Yamuna, acting as a planter, showing the colors of life, and a walk crossing through this river with many trees and the paddy fields, uh, demonstrating that jungle and the landscape of Braj. A few illustrations of that zone, the river Yamuna and the walk, river Yamuna and the walk. These are a few photographs, the ongoing site. In the end, I would like to conclude that talking to site can connect you better with your sites. It directs you to further sensible researches and analysis which might be required for better design. You may come up with site responding solutions, context responding solutions, culture responding solutions, history responding solutions. A landscape architect sensitizes their clients to understand site narratives and talks. A landscape architect introduces the landscape language to them. It's our duty to make them understand what site narrates, what the site talks, what uh, what what should be the direction in which we should go. So there are many projects which we which we come into in our private practice, which could be either private or public projects, which sometimes try to align themselves towards the client talks, but rather we should realign them towards the site talks to make sensible site context responding designs. Thank you. So Ankur, I am over with it, and thank you, and I am now ready for question and answer session.
Thanks a lot, Himanshu. That was a very well coordinated and a very informative presentation. And I think we all will take something and many things from this presentation. So I will quickly take you to the questions, and I will request the audience to please start posting your questions as we start addressing them with Himanshu. So, Himanshu, the first question we have is from Rucha. The question is, what are the major challenges when designing to respond the existing history of a place?
When we respond to existing history of the place.
Yes, what are the major challenges in design?
So, I demonstrated through one of my projects, Subhash Udyan, in which um, challenges. So challenges, I think I would like to answer it in another way. So the challenges could be handled if we start after we go to the site, we see what site demands, and then we start doing a sensible research, a sensible research on its history, so that we could uh, generate narratives and concepts through that history. And but again, it should respond to the immediate context which the site demands. I hope I have answered that.
Yes. So, okay, quickly, I think Rucha will be satisfied with that answer. I go to the next question, which is what is the present status of Nathdwara project? Mr. Nakul is asking that.
What is the present state? So it
Status
is
of.
ongoing. It is ongoing slowly, and I hope it gets executed the way we articulated and we narrated it.
Okay, so again, these are I'm going to combine these two questions. The first is what is the proximity of this median project in relation to Nathdwara temple? And another question, in that project, in the same Nathdwara project, will all the flowers of various themes will bloom all the time or only seasonally? And
Yeah.
and did the local breeds were also considered?
Yeah. So to the first question, it is around 3 kilometer away from the Srinathji temple, and the area of the town, the populated area starts around 2 kilometers, and the median is of around near about 2 kilometers, less than 2 kilometers, which starts from the highway, Udaipur highway, Jaipur Udaipur highway itself, and a person can simply walk through the median and can reach the Srinathji temple easily. And responding to the planting schemes, so usually in our projects we try to introduce mostly native species and the species which are climatically adaptive. So we through the Braj Bhumi environment concept, we selected many species which could respond to that topography, to that climate, and so in a way we generated that plant list. And about the flowers, so that scheme is developed because it had a strong narrative to show these flowers as pakwans and diverse colors and textures. So the plants are being they are selected which will flower throughout the year, through most of the year, through 65 days most of the year. um, and this is the way, like, we selected the planting scheme for that area. So for an example, like kadam is not native, is native to western Rajasthan, to a little more humid, but is not actually native to complete Rajasthan. So it can easily respond to this Udaipur region.
Okay. Next question is, what are the fundamental things to keep in mind while executing these projects on a raw site? I guess this will be to like bring your thoughts to reality, the fundamental things, like basic things.
So if I talk about the process which I follow, is simply go to the site, interact with your site, note down the points which site narrated you, and then sit down with the research, with the analysis which we need to do for that site, and then go ahead with the concepts and narratives, and obviously respond to the client's pocket.
That is most important, I think. Okay, thanks for that. Another question is this is a bit technical. This is about the riverfront project. So you have created a walkway-like structure near the river in the botanical garden. So what if the water level in river rises?
So I was not involved in the hydraulics of the Dravavati River. So, but it is designed in a way on the scheme, like it the embankment, the river basin can handle the 100-year past 100-year flood level. Uh, but the site was obviously 3 meters below the top of the embankment.
Okay, I think it answers to that
But
question.
yeah, but I would like to add, so the park was along that edge, but is not directly connected to that river. So the flood water is not going to affect the botanical garden.
And I think you also showed an embankment near the river. So it's
So
beneath that.
yeah.
Okay, next question we have is for the Nathdwara Median Park. So we have that what measures taken for the access to Median Park as it is in the middle of a very busy road. Also, what are the measures for its maintenance because of the footfall, because it has a large footfall.
So first, we created a large buffer, a large entrance gesture after coming from the highway. So we got a rotary, existing rotary over there, and so there we created uh, a huge buffer so that people could get down and enter into the site. And secondly, to handle uh, the huge pilgrimage influx during the festivals. Um, so there, the 4 to 5 meter wide walkways were created with many post points, with many plazas and many seating areas, so that it could respond to that festival. So this is how we handle that.
Okay, so next we have is like just generally talking about the projects. Were these projects majorly government funded or backed by institutional bodies? This has been asked by Ms. Apeksha.
So, so there are only 4 projects which I demonstrated. So, like if I talk about the botanical garden, it was under the hands of Tata Projects Limited. So it didn't had a direct interaction with the government. So we were lucky in that, in that case. But it had a different challenge of convincing the engineers and the clients of similar profession. In Subhash Udyan, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Vijay Gupta. I don't know whether he's there in the presentation or not, but he was an enthusiastic contractor, and we also were lucky with the enthusiastic and passionate mayor. So with those energies, we were able to come up with the Subhash Udyan. But there we had the direct connection with the government. And like so similarly, like Nadwara, it is in progress, and the Khetri is not the government project, it's the a trust owned project by it is owned by the Ramkrishna Mission. It runs whenever it gets financial aid.
Okay, next again we have a technical question. I guess there will be a lot of technical questions, and I will ask the audience if they can personally contact him also for these. So again, for the riverfront project, does the water bodies mentioned in the project drive, and how has the design strategies retained them, or the retaining methods, and what is the key to that?
So there is a detailed presentation of botanical garden, in which I can share maybe next time in some other forum, or I don't know. But in that we have mentioned and we have designed that space with the whole team of Tata Projects and Phoenix. That the Dravyavati is supposed to be having the rainwater during the rainy season, and will be filled up with the STP treated water. So the botanical garden was supposed to be irrigated 100% by that STP water, and if the but water bodies are designed in a way to catch all the rainwater and are expected to hold the water till summer months. But if any case it dries, we have that STP water to top them up.
Thanks, Himanshu. So, next question is from Miss Nikita, and she asks, like, how can landscape architects work towards creating more shared green spaces which uplift the community and living amidst the urbanization? So, amidst the rapid urbanization, how can we promote the proposals for these kind of things in Indian setting?
So I am unclear, like how to promote, how to connect with the authorities, or how should we, how which process should we use while designing them. So I am unclear about that. So okay, let me answer both. So if how to, so I think about the process. If I tell you about the process, I think about the urban areas. If I talk about, like in botanical garden, we demonstrated and tried to acknowledge urban ecology. So I think open spaces, we are lacking green, we are lacking open spaces within an urban limit. So I think we should focus more on uh, rejuvenating urban ecology and try to connect them all ecologically through our. So if I give the example of Jaipur, it should try to connect with the Dravyavati ecosystem. It should try to connect with other open spaces and the Aravali fringe around us.
Yes. Next question is we have from Ms. Swati. She like to know about the role as a landscape architect in religious campuses with respect to sustainability and like traditional versus contemporary context. How you deal with that?
So if it's a cultural, a religious side, I think the landscape design should respond to that, should directly respond to that context. It should uh, so if you use the term contemporary, the designs could be contemporary but should respond to that context, should respond to that religious context. So, I think, matlab, so, so the two terms can run parallel while designing a religious or a cultural landscape.
Okay, next we have like, did you really, did you visited Mathura and Vrindavan to select the plants for a bridge bhumi?
Sorry, I could not hear you.
Did you actually visited Mathura and Vrindavan to select plants for bridge bhumi?
No, I didn't visited the Mathura Vrindavan actually, but I have visited Mathura and Vrindavan earlier, but not especially for this project. But I researched and generated the list, plant list for people.
Okay. Next question we have is, sorry about that, just hold on. Yeah, so that's, we have a number of high-rise housing projects in the northern region, and the major issue is that landscape is the last thing that client accommodates, as the main focus is primarily on increasing the parking and maximizing FAR. So, minimal earth is available for landscape. So, what is your thoughts on the same, and what should be done to this issue?
So if I talk about my studio, we try to uh, so so if a architect designs an outer development, he or she defines that designs it in a different way. But in when a landscape architect responds to that, we still try to generate more spaces for interaction, more spaces for plant material. Um, but with the available space, I think if there is a defined FAR, if there is a defined built up, and you cannot generate more open spaces. But I think, being a landscape architect, we should respond to it sensitively, respond to it contextually, respond to the site talks. and
Okay.
and many times, like in these areas, we can still have uh, terrace gardens and many other open spaces in these landscapes. But yeah, of course, should accommodate urban ecology and the other aspects.
Well, I think we should have, like, the more the better, right? The bottom line is that. Okay, next question is, when do you think that your effort has been enough? This is regarding with respect to the sense when you're responding to the history. What the information available to you, and when you're dealing with the historical site. So when do you think your effort has been enough and you have done the justice to the design?
So it has a short answer: whenever we start getting appraisal from the users. So,
Yeah.
but I think that can never end. I think uh, we do our best in designing, we do our best in responding to the sites, we do our best with our researches, uh, and we keep on adding our experiences and uh, learnings. That never ends.
Okay, I think this is a very important question. What has more priority, site demand or client demands?
What has more priority? Yeah, of course, site demand, but that's what I had told in the conclusion, that I think we should like delineate client towards the site, instead of making it more of a client talk. We should make it more of a site talk. So that that practice we should follow. And but we should respond to client's pocket, but respond to site in terms of design, and of course client's requirement.
Yeah, we had to keep everyone happy. Okay, so for the for the riverfront project, again we have a technical question. What was the methodology used to drain off the storm water because it was 3 meter down below? Is
Yeah,
it
yeah. Sorry.
no, please, 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 please.
So I demonstrated that in my presentation. So we designed these water bodies. We designed their shapes and volumes in a way that it could catch all the uh, sites rainwater as well as the water flowing through the nearby sites. We created many uh, uh, deep holes into the southern boundary so that it could allow the rainwater coming through the nearby farms. And so there was a system in which each water body is supposed to be filled in series, and the last water body was supposed to handle the overflow, and its overflow was supposed to go into that the adjacent swamp, having the habitat of grasses and bamboos. So post that, if at all we get flood condition, then we have installed a mud pump in that area so that it could pump out the extra water into the Dravyavati back again.
Okay, so this is again with related to the botanical garden. It is a heavily planted site. So what are the maintenance measure that you have for that, and how can you ensure that the vision with which you have imagined that place and the mature planting stays that way over time?
So in terms of its maintenance, the irrigation and its maintenance, I think uh, it can handle its irrigation needs to the STP water flowing into the Dravyavati river, which I explained in the earlier question. And about maintaining the plants as species, which we have experimented many species into the Ayurveda and other gardens. So I think so with the concept of botanical garden, I think it needs it demands the small scale research and experimentation. So that thing will go on with keep on going with that botanical garden, that few species might sustain and few species uh, might not sustain and might not respond to the climate or to the site. So that experimentation will go on, but there is a way in which we have suggested uh, and discussed with our clients to have a panel of botanical experts and landscape architects so that they could volunteer the maintenance of that park. Secondly, in the tender, there is a 10-year maintenance which have to be done by Tata Projects Limited. So there is a team of botanical experts which are maintaining that site these days. In fact, in the lockdown period also.
Okay, the next question we have is what can you talk about the role of stakeholders and the coordination within them in these kind of projects? How much involvement are there from them to streamline the project?
So the role of stakeholders is very complicated in government projects, and responding to them is really difficult. And we have to manage with our concepts and narratives and parallelly manage their interests. So uh, uh, many times we end up uh, with sensible designs and might have to respond to the stakeholders' interests uh, at some location and part of the project.
Okay. Next question is this is regarding the temple project, that you did your own research on understanding the meanings and philosophy behind the 8 darshans. Did you really hold any session with devotees or the residents of the town to discuss and understand their interpretations and meanings to really get connected to all these terms?
No, I would be honest with that. No, we didn't did that, but we went to the city. We went to the temple, but with the team, and noted our experiences and the vibes through which we came up with solutions. But we didn't discuss that with devotees, of course. We didn't
Okay.
have that reach or that connection, or didn't follow that process.
Okay. Next is, I guess we don't have much time, so I'm going to ask you this last question. So I think this is a very good question. So how difficult is to be so subtle and humble with projects, and where do you so much with projects where do you so much but look so simple? Do you ever fear the client waking up and saying, "Bas itna hi karna hai," specifically to Khetri project?
मतलब client wake up to us and say that बस इतना ही करना
Yeah,
है.
I mean the your project is so simple and humble. So
No,
like project client
so
will wake up and say,
I explained in the first slide of Khetri that like the site demanded simplicity, and site demanded to respond to that calm environment, and so I think design obviously responds to the site and the lifestyle of the client in many ways, mostly in private projects. So, like in the K3 project, I think we the clients were all Swamijis, and the user were all devotees. So I think the client demanded that simplicity, and we gave that, and I think so we didn't have those contradictory questions or dreams shared by the client.
so this question was from Bobby sir. So he has another question. This is, I mean, the second part of the question is, somewhere in your heart, do you ever feel, like spreading your hands like Shah Rukh Khan and like we are here and we have arrived? I mean, for for your future coming projects or any projects of yours.
Not like Shah Rukh Khan, but but uh, like a sensible site responding landscape architect and designing them in a humble way.
Yeah. I guess that was great, Himanshu. Thanks a lot. And because we are running out of time, and apart from all these questions, I forgot to mention, I didn't mention, we have lots of congratulations to you, and we have lots of wishes, lots of best wishes from all the audiences. It was a great presentation, very informative, and we are running short of time. And I would request the audience if they can reach out to Himanshu on a personal level to clarify their doubts. And thank you, Himanshu. Thank you very much for joining us today for this presentation. And we would expect you again sometime soon, later. Uh, I thank you, everyone. Thank all the audiences for joining us. And I also thank everyone for joining us for the previous sessions and making this series very successful event. Please follow us for our future upcoming presentations, and we'll see you there. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Ankur.
everyone. Thank you,
Thank you
Himanshu.
for thank you, Ankur, for wonderful hosting, and thank you everyone for patiently listening to my presentations and the wonderful questions.
Thank you. Good
Thank
evening to
you.
all.